Commerce is the beating heart of African trade. This week, as the fourth edition of the Intra-African Trade Fair is underway and under the theme Turning Africa's Potential into Real Opportunities. Today we're joined by Mr. Naresh Bana to talk about how Africa can structure the projects and to make those opportunities real on the ground, and to structure projects that are innovative and bankable. Mr. Naresh, thank you for joining us. You are a subject matter expert. You are the Vice Chairman of Indo-Sri Lanka Chamber of Commerce and Industry. You're the co-founder of the APPP, and you are a veteran combat engineer. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you, Miriam.
Today in one of the panels you were a speaker and you tackled the subject of how to structure projects that are both innovative and bankable. You explored this. So for our audience, can you explain what is a bankable project? What does it look like for investors, for entrepreneurs, for governments, and for institutions? What is it really?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And at the outset, let me thank Algerian Authority of Investment Promotion and WIPA, that is World Association of Investment Promotion Agencies, who have invited me here. And it was a wonderful interaction and the presentation. Now, as far as the project bankable are concerned, it's a very simple word. Bankability intends to provide an investor return on investment. So if there is a project, an investor would only come in if there is a apparent return on his or her investment. Mm-hmm. So to make that happen, an infrastructure project, there has to be certain revenue points, profits, which have to be mapped, and if there is a likely viability gap funding required to make it live, to make it remunerative, that has to be provisioned. For example, if there is a road project, highway project, and it requires, say, 1 billion to construct, and thereafter the returns, because if it takes 1 billion to construct, it has to be repaid back to the financial institutions who have financed it. So the traffic which will run on it, or the other revenue points which are there, if they are sufficient to not only repay the debt or the return on investment, in case there is a shortfall, then that shortfall has to be provisioned, whether the governments bring it in, whether there is a blended finance. So all that is required to be studied, planned, and then only we can say that the project is bankable or not bankable.
Right. How can African entrepreneurs and governments package projects to attract funding? We're here at the Intra-African Trade Fair. Maybe you want to say something to the people who are here.
My message is very clear, that Africa has opportunities. To convert those opportunities into real projects, you have to structure the projects into bankable, innovative, and scalable projects. And for that to happen, the road goes through 3 key levers. That is the financial innovation, and the digital tools implementation, and the regional cooperation.
Talking about innovation in technology, how do you think innovation and technology can play a role in transforming agriculture, mining, energy, or logistics in value chains?
Let me start with agriculture, as you mentioned. The technology today is playing a huge role, right from investigation of the soil to map the soil capacities, soil fertility, and thereafter trying to grow the crop, and then disease management, fertilizer management, that irrigation management, then post-harvest management, the cold chains, the movement, the entire farm to fork blockchain technology if you are deploying, or IoT you are deploying for any other thing. So AI, IoT and blockchain is playing a huge role in not only increasing the yield but also providing transparency and credibility to what is being produced on the table for the consumer.
For the consumers. Drawing on the Indo-Sri Lanka experience, what lessons can we draw from the industrial value chain development and what can be applied here in Africa from your years of experience?
Yeah, we just did a event where we explored the importance of regional economies and regional cooperation. Like smaller economy like Sri Lanka,
Yes.
how they are able to raise funds by issuing sovereign bonds in Indian denominated currency in India. In one of the case, they have already done it. They raised $8 million as a clean fund and they issued sovereign bonds in Gujarat, the International Financial Technology City, and they listed that bond which was issued in Indian currency, which was oversubscribed. But in addition to listing on Indian stock exchanges, they also listed it on Luxembourg, and it has been hugely successful. And that can be replicated by many smaller economies and taking help of the local, regional, bigger economies. And that is a win-win situation.
Win-win situation. How can connectivity projects, we're talking about connections and infrastructure, drive growth across multiple African sectors? We know Africa is a big continent. How can these transportation and infrastructure projects drive growth in Africa?
Any transportation project is an economy driver. The experience has been that the amounts spent on especially the transportation are always resulting into multiplier effect for the economy as a whole. So when the transportation, like yesterday, one of the speakers in the highest level of discussion which took place, they mentioned that the Africans have to at time travel to Europe to come back to another country. Now that should, these are the examples of the inefficiencies which are locked up. By having intra-Africa railway lines, trans-Africa highways, so those are the inefficiencies which will get unlocked, and efficient movement, efficient freight movement will happen, which will bring down the production costs, and the product of landlocked countries will also become very cost competitive. I am doing one of the studies in one of the countries for a dry port in Zambia.
And how can those African countries who maybe do not have the funds to make those big infrastructure projects happen, how can they leverage the help of institutions like Afreximbank and other institutions to help with these projects, the regional banks to help with those projects?
See, that is where the blended finance comes in, right? And let me give the example which I mentioned today. Bhutan is a small country in South Asia, and in 2006, the Austrian government did a feasibility study for a hydropower project. They have a huge hydropower potential which many countries here also have. And in 2008, Asian Development Bank decided to fund it, and that time cost was $201 million, out of which when the cost increased, they raised $234 million. And how that was done? The Bhutan government company, they brought in $49 million and they took 59% of equity. Then their pension fund, which all countries have, they brought in $12 million and got 15% of equity. And the construction partner, Tata Power Company Limited, they brought in $26 million. And then Asian Development Bank brought in $86 million, Austrian government brought in $54 million, and pension fund also brought in the debt of $11.4 million. And this project in 2015 got commissioned. It's a 126 megawatt run-of-the-river project, which is selling most of its electricity to Indian grid and making huge profits. So similar blending of the finance can be done. Or you have one of the good project which can be, example can be given is the Morocco solar project, where a lot of institutions have come together to fund it. So, but the importance is the project leadership, the project ownership. And once a particular government or an institution owns it, they invite or they mobilize the finances and the syndication is done, and thereafter a project can be constructed. It's possible. You don't have to have money upfront on the table.
So
The
there
planning,
are ways to
the
make those
commitments,
big,
yes.
big projects happen
Yes.
through those banks and through some
Commitments.
Of
The
course,
people standing together.
is needed. Commitment is needed.
Most
for
important
sure.
is people should come forward, take ownership, and say, let's go.
And lead. Where do you see the biggest opportunities for structuring innovative projects in African value chains, let's say in the next 5 to 10 years?
I would say the logistics and transportation projects, whether it's ports connecting to the hinterland, whether it is highways or the railways, along with the energy projects, and most of it would come from the renewables, and then simultaneously it will be agro and agro industries, which has a huge potential as the population is growing.
Very important
And
for
yes, and then
Africa's
pharma,
population.
and then digital. Certainly digital space is exploding, and you also have a lot of mining, especially the critical minerals nowadays, and yes, I see a lot of potential
Critical minerals, which ones?
which are being used for the magnets, which are talk of the discussion nowadays, whether it's aluminite, whether it is others, a whole lot of them. Yeah.
Right. Maybe one more thing before we wrap up, an advice to the youth of Africa's continent, the young African entrepreneurs entering infrastructure and industrial sectors.
See, Africa is a youthful continent. By 2050, the population is likely to be 2.5 billion, and there is large proportion will be young people. So they should not feel disadvantaged. They should just nurture their ideas, come forward, and I'm sure their leaders are going to support them. The financial institutions are going to support them. The current pace of technology is going to be at their disposal. The Pan-African payment settlement system is a case in point, which is doing very well, and it's going to be a huge lever to support innovation, to support startups. The startup culture has to take roots in a big way.
Yes.
And for that, the seniors need to come forward to mentor, and the governments must come forward to support. And I'm sure next time when I meet you, you will be running a TV channel of your own.
Luckily. Thank you, hopefully. Thank you for your time. We're here at the International Conference Center in Abdulatif Rahal. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, dear viewers, for following this interview. We will be conducting many more others as part of the Inter-African Trade Fair. Thank you for joining us, and see you in the next ones.